For 5 years, Ethan was my gentle, considerate husband. In our children's eyes, he was the perfect dad. He laughed easily, he carried groceries without being asked, and he tucked them into bed with silly stories that made them giggle. To everyone else, he looked like the model family man. But now, he has become someone else's fiancé. And when his eyes fall on me, there's no trace of the man I once loved, only cold calculation, like I'm some account is trying to balance, some contract is regretting. "I'll take the son," he said flatly. "The Gu family needs an heir." Those words hit like déjà vu, because I had heard them before, in another life. Back then, I broke down. I screamed, I begged, I clung to his legs in front of everyone like a lunatic, humiliating myself beyond repair. And in the end, I still lost everything. I lost my son, the boy I had carried, nursed, loved, and they didn't even return his body to me. So this time, when he repeated that heartless line, I didn't lose myself. Instead, I crouched down, wiped the tears off my daughter's frightened little face, tucked her cold hand into mine, and whispered again and again, "Don't be afraid. Mommy's here." Outside, engines roared. The Gu family's convoy of luxury cars, sleek black machines that looked more like predators than vehicles, lined the street. I stood there, watching the taillights disappear with my son, and softly hummed my daughter's favorite nursery rhyme. Ethan took away their so-called heir. But I kept my daughter, my heart, my whole world. 15 years earlier, Ethan wasn't this man. After a terrible car accident, he'd lost his memory. The Gu heir was gone, and in his place was just Ethan. He was boyish, almost childlike then. He clung to me like a lifeline. He swore the scallion oil noodles I cooked were the most delicious thing he'd ever tasted. He'd grab the mop from my hands when I cleaned, puffing his chest like some hero. "Men should do the heavy work," he'd declare, only to spill dirty water all over the floor while I laughed and followed behind, cleaning up after him. We didn't live in wealth. We lived in a cramped 3-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and a stove that groaned whenever it lit. But he chose it. He chose me. He gave up the Gu family's palaces and promises of luxury to stay in that tiny space with me. 15 years of bitter and sweet. Sweet enough that I truly believed I had found real love. Sweet enough that every clumsy grin, every late-night ramen, every silly moment felt like treasure. But bitter, too. Bitter enough that my body aged before its time, my youthful glow dimming as I worked endless cleaning jobs that paid barely $10 an hour. Bitter enough that my hands grew rough, my back bent, and exhaustion carved itself into my bones. Still, I thought it was worth it. Because love, I believed, was worth every sacrifice. Until the day his memory returned. The Gu family came knocking. And with them, the cruel reminder of where I came from, and where they thought I belonged. I knew what it meant. In my last life, that was the moment I lost everything. Back then, I screamed at him, "Why am I your wife on paper but treated like a mistress in reality? Why are 15 years of love suddenly a disgrace?" They laughed at me. They humiliated me in public. They branded me as nothing. And in the end, they bullied me to death. But this time, I didn't crumble. I straightened my back. I stayed silent. I worked harder. I picked up more jobs, packed my things late at night, and waited. If he wanted to go, then let him. My rundown apartment had never been good enough for the Gu heir, and I wasn't going to beg him to stay. One night, I stood at the window, clutching a red envelope from a client who'd given me a 5-star review. Money. Real, crisp, steady money. For the first time, I felt a steadiness I had never known. Ethan had been right about one thing. Love and sons don't keep you alive. Skills and money do. Through that window, I saw Ethan again. He sat in my living room with Victoria, the same Victoria who had bullied me in high school. My son Liam circled her like a little puppy, desperate for her attention, his eyes full of admiration. Victoria's smile was the same as it had been when she shoved me into lockers, when she sneered at my cheap shoes. Cold, condescending, cutting. "Of course, Liam," she said, "Paris has an artistic atmosphere your mother could never imagine. She only knows how to scrub floors. You must work hard, so you don't end up like her." Her words were like needles, each one piercing deeper. My son's laughter, eager to agree with her, tore something inside me. And Ethan just sat there, indulgence in his eyes, silent approval painted on his face. 2 lives I had watched those eyes. 2 lives I had seen the contempt. In my last life, I begged him, why her? Why Victoria of all people? He told me, Victoria's changed. Don't live in the past. We are a family alliance now. And then Victoria smirked at me, saying, Sophia, your mom was a maid. You're a cleaner. Why not come work as a maid in my house? I'll pay you well. My son had looked up with innocent eyes and said, Mom, say yes to Aunt Victoria. She'll give you tips. That day, my dignity crumbled. Even the wedding photo on the wall felt like a joke. But this time, I didn't give her the satisfaction. I packed what was mine. I sold the apartment. I left no trace. When Ethan returned later with Liam, hoping to see me in the kitchen again, the house was gone. A stranger lived there. The home he had scorned, the wife he had discarded, they were gone without a shadow left behind. I took my mother and daughter to a seaside town. With our savings, I registered a housekeeping company, Shi Jing. At first, it was just me and a few women. Women like me. Women who had scrubbed floors their whole lives, invisible and undervalued. I gave them fair pay, dignity, and respect. We wore uniforms with our heads held high. And slowly, clients noticed. Word spread. Within a year, Shi Jing had become one of the most reputable names in the industry. And then, I was invited to speak at a business summit. That day, I wore a white suit my daughter chose for me. My hand shook as I stepped on stage, but when I looked out into the crowd, at all the men in tailored suits waiting to dismiss me, I stood tall. Call me a maid, a cleaner, someone who takes out the trash, I said. So what? You're all cleaners too. The emperor cleans the empire. The merchant polishes his goods. And I polish floors. Without us, your world collapses. We charge 5 times the industry rate, and you all pay it happily. Why? Because we are worth it. The room went silent, and then applause thundered so loudly it shook me to my core. My employees wept backstage. For the first time, they saw housework not as shame, but as skill. That speech went viral. Ethan saw it. His eyes filled with shock, with disbelief, with something that looked a lot like regret. Victoria began to unravel. She barged into my office, screaming, calling me shameless. I pressed the intercom. Security, please escort the distressed young woman out. 2 guards took her away as she kicked and cursed. Her elegance shattered. I sued her family for unfair competition. I won. Publicly. The Gu family's stock sank with hers. Ethan tried everything to win me back. He even knelt outside my company with the teddy bear he'd once given me, begging for another chance. People filmed it. The city gossiped. I looked down from my office window and felt nothing. He stormed inside, grabbed my arm, demanded, "Do you hate me that much?" "Hate you?" I said, my voice steady. "You're not worth my hatred. Besides being the Gu family heir, what else do you have?" His face drained. Liam ran to me, sobbing, "Mum, I'm sorry. Come home with us." I stroked his hair, but my words were resolute. "Liam, a man must take responsibility for his choices. You chose your father. Now you must live with that choice. You can visit me. You can live with me. But that home is gone." Soon after, the Gu family collapsed. Evidence I'd gathered of their corruption came to light. Their empire crumbled. Victoria was left hawking scraps in a wet market. Ethan was thrown out, penniless. And me, Shi Jing, went public. At the bell-ringing ceremony, reporters crowded around me. "Miss Sophia, what sustained you? How did you climb from maid to CEO?" I looked into the cameras, remembering my past life, how I died on the floor while my husband and son turned their backs. My naivety dragged me into the mud, I said. My courage pulled me out. A woman's competence never comes from who she marries, but from who she becomes. The cameras flashed. The crowd roared. And in that moment, I saw her, the broken woman I once was, rise from the floor of memory. Her uniform was stained, but it had turned into armor. And beside her, I saw my daughter Nora, calm and strong, carrying herself with the same quiet power. I swore then, My fate will never be hers. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe to get more unique stories.